And so the real question is not, what would I do in my last 24 hours? The real question is, why am I waiting for the last 24 hours to do it? Why do we silence our hearts until they are running out of time? Why do we push away the people who matter, or postpone the peace we could choose today, or live as if life is an endless rehearsal? Maybe the truth is simpler than we think. Maybe meaning isn't something we find at the end. Maybe it's something we keep losing along the way, because we're too distracted to notice it. And perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't death itself. It's reaching the end and realizing the things that mattered the most were the ones we treated as small. If you found out you had only 24 hours left, what is the first thing inside you that would fall silent? Let me ask you a question. When all the chaos, all the pressure, all the running finally ends, what remains? And why do we wait so long? Sometimes until the last 24 hours, to see a truth we couldn't see for 24 years. His name was Fareed, a retired schoolteacher in his late 70s, and on an ordinary morning, he was told he had only one day left. He didn't call everyone. He didn't make announcements. He didn't rush to fix anything. Instead, he chose three small, almost invisible actions. First, he stepped outside and walked to the old oak tree near his house. He placed his hand on its rough bark and whispered the memories hidden inside it. The day he planted it with his wife 40 years ago, the summers they spent beneath it, the life that grew as quietly as the tree itself. Then he played a voice message from his daughter. Not to reply, not to start a conversation, just to hear her voice, to feel her presence in the only way time still allowed. And finally, he opened his notebook and wrote a single line. The moments I rushed through were the ones that mattered. His story may sound poetic, but it carries a truth even science agrees with. Hospice nurses, the people who stand beside those in their final hours, say that on the last day of life, people rarely ask for their achievements, their money, or the possessions they worked so hard to collect. They ask for a hand to hold. They ask to hear a familiar voice. They ask to see just one more sunrise. Fareed's final day was not about the grand things he once chased. It was about the human things he had overlooked. And his quiet steps through memory echoed the same truth that thousands of final moments have already taught us. Fareed's story isn't just about an old man's last day. It's a mirror held quietly in front of each of us. Because somewhere along the way, we all start believing a lie. That life is made of the big moments, the promotions, the milestones, the goals we chase until our breath grows thin. But in the final hours, something unexpected happens. The mind stops negotiating, the heart stops pretending, and the soul begins to whisper the truths we avoided. We don't remember the years we spent running. We remember the afternoons that felt ordinary, the ones we never had time for. We don't long for the people who impressed us. We long for the people who made us feel safe. We don't ask for the things we owned. We ask for the moments we lived, and the moments we never allowed ourselves to live. Science tells us what happens in the body during the final hours. The heart slows, breathing softens, the senses grow quiet, one by one. It is a physical process, measurable and predictable. But anyone who has sat beside a dying person knows there is something more happening, something no instrument can record. In the final day, people often talk to those who aren't in the room. They see faces they loved. They recall memories they never spoke about. It is as if the mind begins to open a door that stays closed during the noise of normal life. Some call it biology. Some call it the soul preparing to travel. Some call it the thinning of the veil between this world and whatever comes next. But whatever name we give it, the pattern is the same. At the end, human beings search not for time, but for connection. Fareed, too, wasn't reaching for more days. He was reaching for meaning, for presence, for the invisible thread that ties us to the people we love and to something greater than ourselves. And maybe that is the bridge between science and spirituality. Science can tell us how the body ends, but spirituality asks us why we lived. Science measures the heartbeat. Spirituality asks what or who it beat for. Science explains the final breath. Spirituality reminds us that love often outlives it. Perhaps the last 24 hours are not only the end of life, but the moment we finally remember that life was never just physical. It was emotional. It was relational. It was sacred. And when time runs out, it is not the world we fear losing. It is the parts of ourselves we never fully allowed to live. In the end, Fareed did not conquer time. No one does. But in his final 24 hours, he discovered something most people learn too late. That life becomes clearer when we stop trying to hold it so tightly. Maybe that is the quiet message hidden in every ending. Not to scare us, not to remind us of death, but to wake us gently into the parts of life we keep postponing. Because time is not asking us for perfection. It is asking us for presence. Not bigger achievements, but deeper moments. Not more people, but more sincerity with the ones we already have. Fareed's last line in his notebook stayed with me. The moments I rushed through were the ones that mattered. A confession, yes, but also an invitation. An invitation to you, to slow down before life forces you to speak your truth before silence becomes permanent, to forgive before the door closes, to love before the chance slips quietly through your hands. We're not promised another year, or another month, or even another sunrise, but we are promised the moment we're in right now. And maybe that is enough. Enough to choose differently. Enough to see what we've been blind to. Enough to give meaning to the time we have left. Whether it's decades, or just one ordinary day. So ask yourself, gently and honestly, if I had 24 hours left, what would matter? And then ask the question that truly shapes a life. Why am I waiting?